What's going on, everybody? It is Ryan Archidiakono here. Just want to say happy birthday to Philly Take with RB. From us Fire Take legends and Fire Take Hall of Fame members.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Ben Simmons has purchased a $17 million mansion in Los Angeles. He seems content on staying out there for the offseason. Meanwhile, here in Philadelphia, the trade rumors, the talks, the whispers are heating up around the league. What will happen to Ben Simmons? Will he be traded this offseason? Will he return as a member of the Sixers? How happy would fans be if that happens? What is his market value right now? These are all the things that have to be answered. Daryl Morey is continuously working the phones, and you know he is going to have one busy offseason trying to bring in the right player alongside Joel Embiid that can put this Sixers team in championship contention next season. But today, we must look at some potential mock Simmons trades. Can Ben Simmons be traded and also bring back value for the Sixers? Let's go ahead and talk about it, man. What is going on, everybody? RB here. Welcome into Philly Take with RB. You know what to do. Smash that like, hit that subscribe if you're new, and hit that notification bell. That way you are instantly notified anytime I upload or go live. We will be covering this entire Sixers offseason. There is a lot that is about to happen, so be sure to stay tuned in. Today, I mocked around some trades on the NBA trade machine. I experimented, and, I've been hearing a lot for the last week. I know I'm a bit late on this, but it's better to be late than never, and I really wanted to try to design some really good trades for the Sixers. Now, some of them are more favorable than others, and we will talk about that. But whether you agree with me or not, my personal opinion is that Ben Simmons is going to be traded this offseason. I just don't see a way with how things went down that this ownership group is content with bringing him back. And I just don't think it is the right fit, the right situation. I think it has just run its course. And no matter what, I think Ben Simmons is going to be out of here. But man, two disclosures before we get into this. Number one, not all of these are optimal for me, and I will talk about that as we go. Some of them on the back end are just some ladder trade packages that I was able to put together just in case Ben Simmons' value decreases to what, maybe what we don't expect. But who knows what the trade value market is for him right now. I still think teams would try to develop around him, but we will talk about that. And second off, a lot of my trade packages that I will show here today do not include the Sixers, for example, getting a role player and draft picks in this upcoming draft. We know we're limited, cap flexibility. We don't have a lot of draft picks. I don't think the Sixers are going to go out, for example, and trade with the Warriors for Andrew Wiggins and a top pick in the lottery this draft, or two top first round picks. I don't think that's the way to go. Going back to this common theme we've been talking about, the Sixers need to optimize the window right now for Joel Embiid. I don't think we have time to wait. It's a very, very talented guard heavy draft. I think it may be one of the best, in a long time. And I would love a player of high caliber in this draft, a point shooting guard, doesn't matter. But I do think the Sixers need to get a star with experience to come in and be ready to win a championship next year. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into some of the trades that I was able to put together. Now, my first trade, and first and foremost, we know all of our dream is to get Damian Lillard to Philadelphia this summer. And, I think that the Sixers are going to be in the mix. I don't think it's going to be easy, but if there was a way to do it, here it is. Can other teams offer as much as the Sixers? That's a good question. In this first mock trade, I have Damian Lillard coming to the Philadelphia 76ers. Ben Simmons heads to Portland. Tyrese Maxey goes along with them. And the Sixers give up 3 first-round picks, 1 in this year's draft and 2 future. Now, I didn't go to the extent to, put in protected, unprotected, and all that stuff. But, this common saying that I've been going with, you have to give to get, right? You're not going to give up role players and get Damian Lillard. You're going to have to give up a guy like Tyrese Maxey or Matisse Thybulle. You could, flip-flop them depending on what Portland is looking for. A lot of this depends on the other team as well. Is Portland going to go into a full rebuild? Who knows with this whole coaching situation going on? Maybe they try another guard with D'Angelo Russell. Maybe they try to bring in a forward like Ben Simmons, where he doesn't have to be necessarily the man on offense, and they see how it works. But, this is a pretty solid trade package compared to what some others can offer. Tyrese Maxey looks like a star in the making. Ben Simmons, he'd be a guy, that Portland hasn't had. They haven't had a really good forward and maybe they bank on his potential. But this is my Damian Lillard proposed trade that I've been waiting to put out there for a while. So, I do think something like this or on this realm could be able to get it done, especially if Dame forces his way out of Portland or if they're just done with him at this point. But Dame is obviously the pipe dream. And, if there's a way to get him, I think this is it right here. The second trade that we will look at involves Ben Simmons heading to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have been reported to be very hungry in acquiring him. We also send George Hill in order to be a salary match type of guy. And in return, the Sixers are able to bring in D'Angelo Russell, 25 years old. I know the last couple years have been interesting for him. He's kind of bounced around a bit. He's been injured, but, a lot of people just seem to be out on D'Lo. Let me tell you something. This guy was a number 2 overall pick for a reason. He's a point guard that can come in. He can create on his own. He's great in the pick and roll. He's been a lot smarter as he's gotten older, and he can still give you 20, 22, 23 points a game, maybe even in the right situation more. Because before he got traded, when Kyrie Irving went to Brooklyn and all, he had his first all-star year, and I really thought he was coming into his own. He's still only 25 years old. He can come in and run your offense, and if you're able to get another star player like a forward, I think D'Angelo Russell could thrive on this team. I don't know why people are instantly counting him out. In addition to D'Angelo Russell, the Sixers bring in Malik Beasley, a young shooting guard. I think he's 24 years old. He can create. He can knock down shots at a high clip, around 40%. And he's just a straight baller, man. They gave him a chance after he got traded from Denver. I think he can become an elite scorer. I know he has some problems off the court, but overall, if we had to do this to match the salaries, I'm taking Malik Beasley every day. Maybe the T-Wolves are trying to move on from him, especially with Anthony Edwards coming into his own. I would definitely try to acquire these two in a package. If we couldn't get a guy like Dame Lillard, I think this would be probably the next best thing given what is available. There's not a lot of star guards available. Maybe you rock with something like this. And the Sixers also get a future first round pick, protected or unprotected. I actually think this would be a beneficial trade for both the Sixers and the Timberwolves. I think it makes both teams better and the salaries line up. As we get to the third trade on my list, we head back to Portland. This is one that's been talked about, a lot. Ben Simmons heads to the Trailblazers, and if it came down to this, and this is where his value is at, the Sixers get CJ McCollum in return. They also get a future first round pick, and I also threw in CJ Ellaby there, a young second round pick, kind of just a cap filler there, but also maybe a guy that you could experiment with, try to give some playing time to, but it is what it is there. But yeah, CJ McCollum for Ben Simmons, because when it comes to these two, they're almost a straight swap, and maybe CJ McCollum needs a new fit. Maybe the Trailblazers still try to rock with Dame Lillard. They try to bring in another forward like a Ben Simmons rather than a Robert Covington. And maybe this works for both teams. The Sixers try to go out and get another star, and they have CJ McCollum, maybe Tobias Harris, another star, and Joel Embiid, depending on what they try to do. A lot of people are in on McCollum. A lot of people say this would not be fair at all. I'm kind of in the middle. If it comes down to this, because I'm not in the favor of bringing Ben Simmons back. So at the point, maybe other options are exhausted. If you can bring in a CJ McCollum, and this is what we're at. This is where we're at. I wouldn't be opposed. It wouldn't be my top option though. But this is another Portland trade. I do think it could work as well. Getting into our fourth option, another one that has been mocked lately. Ben Simmons heading to the Indiana Pacers. In exchange, I have the Sixers receiving Malcolm Brogdon, Jeremy Lamb, and a future second round pick. I do think this would work for both teams as well. I think the Indiana Pacers are going to try to trade Malcolm Brogdon this offseason. And I could see them trying to experiment with a young Ben Simmons, try to get him out of his comfort zone, try to get him, to become a shooter. At the same time, what's going to happen with some of their big men, right? Ben Simmons may be able to play some 4 or 5, depending on what happens with Miles Turner or Sabonis or players like that. And in return, the Sixers get a point guard, a guy who's good on both sides of the floor. He had a couple injuries, but he's still a solid player. Malcolm Brogdon, he was Defensive Player of the Year a couple years ago. He can still knock down shots at a high clip. They also get a role player in Jeremy Lamb that you can bring off the bench, and he will provide you with that depth, and he can still play a little bit. A lot of people were asking me about Malcolm Brogdon and TJ Warren in exchange for Ben Simmons. Let me tell you something. With the way Ben Simmons looked, and in addition to that, TJ Warren coming off that injury, but before that, he was really finding his groove. I'm trying to be as realistic as possible here. I don't see a way that the Indiana Pacers trade us TJ Warren and Malcolm Brogdon in exchange for Ben Simmons. He has a similar salary to Jeremy Lamb. I just think the Pacers are going to roll with TJ Warren and Karis LeVert and try to see what happens there. I just don't see them trading them both. But if it came down to this, I think Brogdon and Lamb could be some well-needed depth for our team. My 5th trade, and now we're at the kind of the back end here, that my last couple trades, these aren't my most favorable, but if they came down to it, I would say okay, depending on other moves that happen. In this trade, Ben Simmons heads to the Cleveland Cavaliers. In exchange, the Sixers get Kevin Love, Colin Sexton, and a future first-round pick. Kevin Love would kind of just be to fill the salary. You could either roll with him as a role player, or you could shed his salary and cut him or trade him somewhere else. Who knows what Kevin Love has left, but he could play some 4, some 5 if he is healthy and if he's right mentally. Colin Sexton is a very young guard. The Cavs have had discussions about trading him this offseason. They do not want to pay him. They have a lot of guards that are up and coming. Colin Sexton continues to improve. He's going into his 4th year in the league next year. He's only 22 years old. He can shoot it from 40% from outside. He's just a great point guard, a great facilitator as well. And he's just your main point guard, and he has that fight in him. And I really like Colin Sexton's game. I have since he came out of Alabama, and I think he continues to develop each year. He's going to want a big contract, though, and that's something you have to keep in mind. But if it came down to it, would I take a young, developing Colin Sexton? I would. I just don't know, because I don't think he's going to be ready to be a point guard on a championship team next year. Maybe in the future, but I don't know about next year. But just another idea we have in here. And then the last trade is probably not too likely, but I just wanted to throw it in there anyway. This one has Ben Simmons going to the Kings with George Hill. In exchange, the Sixers acquire Buddy Hield, Harrison Barnes, and a future first-round pick. Now, I know what your instant thoughts are. Why didn't you include De'Aaron Fox? Let's keep it real, okay? With the way Ben Simmons played, with the way he looked, the Sacramento Kings, who just paid De'Aaron Fox, they are not going to trade us De'Aaron Fox for Ben Simmons. It's just the fact of the matter. Why would they do that? They've developed a nice backcourt with De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton, and they have other, good young players. They're not going to trade us him. However, one guy who has been mocked in trades for 2 years now, Buddy Hield, could find his way to Philadelphia. This is a trade I would consider if the Sixers ended up, say, signing another star in free agency, or, collecting another top player somehow, and they wanted to bring Buddy Hield in to maybe be a third option or something like that, a guy who can knock down shots at a high clip, a guy who's really needed a new home. At the same time, you bring in Harrison Barnes, who's a vet, can knock down some shots. I haven't been the biggest fan of him, but, he could be a bench player for us, even though he's kind of getting paid a lot of money to do so. But this trade I could see happening, if the value was so low and we went out and got players elsewhere and we were able to bring them in, and the Sixers get a future first. But at the end of the day, these are my mock trades for Ben Simmons. I tried to keep it as real as I could. There's not too much out there in terms of top star talent where I think we could pull off a Ben Simmons trade. I'm hoping that the Damian Lillard thing works out. The rest of these trades have their pros and cons. At the end of the day, I do think the Sixers have to move Ben Simmons, and I think Daryl Morey is going to work his magic somehow and try to bring someone in here and get ready to gear up for next season. But those are just my trades. Let me know down below in the comment section, what do you think of these trades. Give me other ones that you're thinking of, and let me know if you enjoyed this style video, and I will be doing more of these in the future. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one, man. Peace.
Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.